Welcome into we're only 11 hours later than the last podcast I think I was recording, but this is Betting the Pitch number 222, the match day one version of Champions League football. And we've got a few minutes until the first, matches that start at 11:45 Central Time. Not my favorite, but I've been swimming in the futures markets all morning, so apologies for that. But if you are with me on Patreon or on pregame, you should have all that information coming through to you already. You'll see probably a tweet coming out in just a few minutes that'll have everything as I try to multitask while podcasting. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I'm experienced enough. I'm the real_G Warner on Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon. If you're not a patron yet, go check it out. Patreon.com/the_G Warner. Best place to get all my thoughts in the same place. You can interact with me daily. With picks that I'm putting out across all the major sports, as I am trying my best to make us all some money while being somewhat conservative in my outlook, while also still trying to get in some puts on some certain stocks out there as well. So we're going to go in and go through. Unfortunately, there's not a lot in this early window. I was hoping that Milan would move to an underdog, but that hasn't happened. And it's kind of been floating around. One of the most interesting things to me is the movement of pretty much every line in Europe, continental Europe play, way more than domestic leagues and things of that nature. So always good to pay attention. And I might even be watching it as I'm recording just to see in case. I mean, Milan, they're now minus 114 at Pick'em right now. The juice is minus 114. Looked like Newcastle might even climb to a favorite by the time that happened. But I'm not a Newcastle believer. I'll put it that way. Young Boys also got a really tough matchup ahead of them with Leipzig on the I guess at home on the artificial turf, which I guess Leipzig have been practicing on fake turf for a little while to get ready for this one. I don't know really how necessary that is, considering this should be the only artificial turf match they have all season. But games are about to start, so I'll go through. I'm going to come up with an ultimate best bet before the end of the show. If you're listening on YouTube, please hit subscribe, or watching, I guess. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. It would be huge for getting up the search ratings. And the more hits I get, the more of these I can do, or it makes more sense for me to do them. I already mentioned checking out patreon.com/real_G Warner. So I will get right into it. All lines quoted in this podcast are courtesy of betonline.ag, my favorite place to get my bets down early. Reduced use is offered on almost every game you want to bet right up until game time. Please follow the link found in the podcast description to fund your account and use the promo code GW50 to receive a 50% match bonus up to $1,000. So, going to pick out a best bet from the afternoon slate, since we only got a couple hours till that comes through for Champions League on Tuesday, and also on Wednesday. Probably will try to make it my best bet for the Wednesday card, just so there's more time for everybody to get into it, just in case you're not able to drop everything and listen to a live podcast during the work week. So like I mentioned, AC Milan, they were the side I wanted, and doesn't look like it's going to get to any sort of play type of point, but Newcastle had gotten some respect, at one point a little bit more of the juice at Pick'em. But I think it's crazy to me that that's the case, because I'm not a believer in AC Milan, or excuse me, in Newcastle whatsoever. Miracle penalty this weekend, absolute joke of a refereeing decision by Premier League referee Craig Pawson, but he's done that a lot. And unfortunately, refs in this sport are continuously horrible, and even with VAR are still incredibly bad. I can't imagine what it was like before VAR, I gotta say. Over under this one's 2.25. It's pretty juicy, the under. And that's a little bit surprising to me. I expected to be higher. The number was higher and has been dropping, so maybe not a lot of offense is expected. I think that's really going to be Newcastle's strategy going into this one, and they're going to try their best to make it as difficult as possible on everyone to score in the group. I just don't really believe that they're that talented offensively. And I think it's going to be really tough for Newcastle to balance multiple competitions, but I guess we don't have to worry about that just yet. Young Boys, they got a big group ahead of them. They're going to try their best to get probably third place to finish in drop down the Europa League, because there's a lot of money there. Leipzig, this is kind of a must win. If you're going to win the group, you got to win on the road at Young Boys. You got to win against their other opponent. I think it's Crvena Zvezda, the Red Star Belgrade from Serbia. So I guess Leipzig, they're going to be fighting in two competitions, Champions League and also the Bundesliga, plus I guess the DFB Pokal, as they keep winning that. But It's a big day for Leipzig, and they gotta prove that they can win this match if they want to be a serious contender to winning the group. But that should be Man City's all day, all night, all year, all lifetime. Now move to the main window of matches. So we got start with PSG hosting Borussia Dortmund. Currently, PSG a 3/4 goal favorite. A little bit more juice on Borussia Dortmund at the moment. Over unders 3.5. With split juice at -110 both ways. This is too big to me. Let's see, I guess I'll come out with everything. I thought that Dortmund getting a half of a goal would look nice to me. PSG have not looked good this season. Of course, they have the best player in the world and Kylian Mbappe, but there's plenty of questions about his motivation and really what he's going to deliver this season. They brought in a ton of new players. PSG moved on from Messi and Neymar, which probably wasn't a bad thing, but they've got a lot of changes in place. And this line requires they win by more than a goal to take my full unit. So I'm pretty interested in Dortmund. I don't know if this will fall to a half. Seemingly has kind of been jockeying, and actually PSG have been taking a little bit more money. Yes, at the Parc des Princes, it's certainly a great place to play for them, and they're going to play better at home. And Dortmund have had big problems, but they had a big fight back from taking a lead, then falling behind 2-1. Really a very fortunate red card from Freiburg this weekend, and then Dortmund took advantage of it with a set piece, bundling a goal in. I just think that Dortmund, this is a really tough group. They know going on the road, if they can steal a point from the Parc des Princes, that's going to be a huge thing for them. And I feel like Dortmund, in a European type of sense or European competition where they're not expected to win by 2 goals or more in a Bundesliga match, it's kind of a nice spot for them to kind of fly under the radar and potentially try to win that way. That's my biggest interest. It is in Dortmund getting that 3/4 of a goal. Over under 3.5 is still pretty large to me. I don't know necessarily that that's enough for me to want to get too involved, but because Dortmund aren't really going to try to play a ton of defense or aren't great at defense, and neither PSG probably want to counterattack. At least they've done a lot of what they've done under a lot of other managers. Luis Enrique coming from the Spanish national team, and they're a possession-based squad. I'm not necessarily sure that they're going to want to play that same way because it's a little bit different of a scenario, but Spain are one of the most dominant national teams and still played with trying to have the ball as much as possible. So maybe PSG are just going to do the same thing at home. Next, we'll move to Lazio hosting Atletico Madrid, 2 teams that come in off of really, really tough starts to the season. Atleti maybe a little bit better and certainly closed 2023's season really well. But right now, Atleti a pick'em, but with all the juice right now on the road at Lazio, we've seen a quarter pop. I'm not sure if that'll come back, but I'm very interested in the Lazio side here. They have not looked great. They really miss Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, honestly, but they're a side that I really want to, if they get a quarter of a goal, I'm fully in the camp that I'm not a believer in Atleti as a road favorite, mostly in La Liga, but also I think I would say that here, especially in Champions League as well, in front of what should be a pretty big crowd in Roma. I think Lazio are pretty solid defensively, had a really great finish to last season, coming second in Serie A, but they ultimately are going to need to, I think, get points here. And I mean, if I'm getting paid for a draw, even if it's half of a unit, if you take +1/4, that's very interesting to me on Lazio. So I really like that. Currently pick them at +108, but I think we'll wait and see. And I might even play that number if we still are getting odds. Feyenoord then hosts Celtic in a big battle of kind of lower finished teams, or expected to finish 3rd and 4th in their group. Feyenoord a 1-goal favorite right now, and an over under of 3.25, very juiced the under. Now I'm most interested in Celtic here because I'm an addict for full goals of insurance. And so +1 is a really nice number to have on Celtic. The question for me is that Celtic haven't really been competitive in Europe from when I've watched them over the years. And this is a big step because they're going to a really tough place to play in Feyenoord. I'm a big time believer in Feyenoord getting out of this group. So I think this is a perfect place to start for them as a big favorite at home to get a win. If they don't get it, that would be a huge step in the wrong direction and really would require them to get a result or play very well against the big boys in their group. But if you get 3 points at home, that's really the best way you can start, only way you can start if you're trying to advance. I just don't know that I trust Celtic enough because I don't really follow the Scottish Premier League because I don't even know where it's televised. Next, go to Shakhtar Donetsk hosting Football Club Porto. Currently, Shakhtar, they're clearly not playing Ukraine. I don't know if it's in Poland or if they've negotiated to play somewhere else, but Shakhtar are a 3-quarter goal underdog at home. All the juice or at their, whatever they're calling their home. Juice is fully on the Porto side, so we might even get a +1 on Shakhtar Donetsk at that point. Of course, all the sounds going off. If we get a +1 on Shakhtar, that does make me a lot more interested. As Leipzig take the lead. Sorry if you're watching this later. I'll try not to do that. It only took 2.5 minutes. But anyway, I feel like Shakhtar Donetsk, they kind of, as I said on the podcast I did last night, or literally hours ago, in the wee hours, they were a team built perfectly for Mihajlo Mudryk. They're not that way anymore. So there's a lot of work that needs to go into that team. And who knows what the home crowd's going to be like. I think this is going to be a nice kind of demonstration of what it could be moving forward. But it's hard to take a position on it unless I get that +1, but we might even get there soon enough. So I won't put that on my list for the ultimate best bet. It's coming end of show, but it's certainly something I'll be thinking about and updating you all on Twitter. Over-under is 2 3/4 in that one. Very juicy. The under. Porto, to me, are a defensive side. But they're going to open up and try to get 3 points on the road here to try to compete with Barcelona for the really important slot of winning the group. So we'll see how that ends up going. But next we'll go to Manchester City hosting Zvezda, the Red Star Belgrade Serbian side. Man City currently a -2 3/4 goal favorite with almost all the juice right now. Over-under is 3 3/4, juiced very heavily. We did have a 4 as the total. We also had 3 as the spread. It's come down a little bit from money, clearly backing the Belgrade side. They're going to go in and play defensively as possible, as everyone does against City. So that shouldn't be too different. Problem is squad values are very different between Belgrade and I guess all over the Premier League. So it's pretty much expecting or hoping that lesser players are able to keep Man City out when players all over England can't do it themselves. So that's a big question for me. I think my biggest interest is by getting that extra goal. If you get a 4 for a total, I don't necessarily believe that I'm not guaranteeing I'll play it. It's certainly something I'll think about if we get there, but we're not there yet. So nothing for me nothing to see here, nothing for me to say about that one. And then last but not least, on the Tuesday card, we have Barcelona hosting Antwerp in their Olympia Stadium, not Camp Nou, which is unfortunately difficult for Barcelona. They're probably not going to be able to produce the same level of crowd effect. Certainly won't be getting the revenue that they were looking for in the past. But Barcelona, 2-goal favorite with most of the juice right now at home. Over-under is 3 1/4, juice slightly to the under. My biggest interest is under here. Antwerp, they have some famous defenders, former Premier League players, mainly Belgians. I'm a believer in the Barcelona defense, basically, as most teams are scared of them and don't really go all out and try to attack them. Clearly it didn't work for Villarreal earlier this season, and Quique Setien was let go in the international break. But that's to me the way to beat Barcelona is to really not believe that Barcelona are that strong, because they really aren't, and to try to take advantage and go after them and try to outscore them. Of course, easier said than done, but I expect Antwerp to go in and play great defense and really not take many chances on goals. So under 3 1/4 works really well for me in that way, because I just feel like that's a really nice position for a Barcelona side that wins 3-0 at home and you win on that under. So I guess for the ultimate best bet portion of the show, I got to pick one from Tuesday, and we only got the afternoon card in front of me. I really do like Lazio, but I don't really want to take them at pick 'em just yet. Even at home, I do like that. I think we might get a quarter by the time this kicks off. So instead, I do like Dortmund getting 3/4 of a goal. Maybe we get +1 before it kicks as well. I'm going to go with Antwerp under 3 1/4 as my best bet. To me, that's just the one that I think stands out the most, and I feel most comfortable about as we're recording this just before noontime on Tuesday, September 19th. So now I'll move to Wednesday and start with the early matchups, which is Real Madrid hosting Union Berlin. Currently, Real Madrid a 1 1/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Over-unders 2 3/4 with split juice both ways. Real Madrid might move to 1.5 here, and I wouldn't blame them. To me, this is a big stepping stone for Union Berlin, of course, finally in Champions League, but they've been a defensive side for years, and they are moving out of being so defensive and they signed a lot of good players that play on their front foot and aren't really the defenders that Union used to have. That hasn't worked very well in the German Bundesliga just yet. So that's scary to me. I don't feel very good about that. And I don't really want to see that against Real Madrid side, who clearly have been winning a ton of matches in La Liga, whether their performers have deserved it or not. I would say they haven't. But I guess my strongest interest in this one is to the under 2.75. I'd like to see a 3. That would be a godsend. I don't know if we'll get there because I still feel like Real Madrid's offense is not given that much respect. I think their defense is given plenty. But that's kind of where I feel like the best money could be made in this one. And I mean, it's, to me, I think Union will go back to playing very defensively, especially going to the Bernabeu. And after things haven't worked very well, I think we'll be able to see from what lineup Louis Fischer puts out there. And if he's very defensive, that's a really good sign, I think, for an under. But if he's playing Kevin Volland and all these players that are trying to outscore Real Madrid instead of defend them, that would be a tell that I think it's one to skip. And other early game is Galatasaray hosting FC Copenhagen. Currently Galatasaray 1-goal favorite with almost all the juice on Copenhagen on the road. Over under is 2.75, and that is juiced to the under. Big battle for third and fourth place teams potentially in Group A with Bayern and Manchester United. Galatasaray certainly have eyes on 3 points here, and that would give them a good shot at least to get in that third place position and drop to Europa League to make more money, or to really give a chance at a struggling Manchester United and ultimately a Bayern Munich team that's second favorites to win this competition, but really haven't looked that good to start the season, I don't think. Copenhagen are going to go in and try to defend with their lives. I think that's going to be their style this whole time. We'll see how that ends up going, to say the least. But I mean, my biggest interest again here is under 2.75. I'd love to get a 3 if it pops up. The big question is Galatasaray with all these big names, how efficient offensively they can be on Champions League level. Moving to the afternoon window, or late night window in Europe, we have Real Sociedad hosting Inter Milan. Currently Sociedad a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over unders 2.25, juiced all the way to the over. Real Sociedad, they had a big matchup with Real Madrid this weekend. Inter Milan had Milan in the Milan derby as well. So two teams that are going to be fighting through some energy concerns, certainly after expending a ton in their big matches on the weekend. Inter have been in this competition before, runners-up last season, and honestly could have beaten Manchester City in the final. Real Sociedad, meanwhile, haven't been in the Champions League from when I've been watching, and this is a big step up for them in competition. They've shown that they've kind of had growing pains against the best sides or best talent in Spain, unfortunately, against the Real Madrids and the Barcelonas of the world. Inter aren't completely far off from that level either. So I think this is a big kind of prove yourself type of moment for Real Sociedad. But getting a quarter of a goal at home will always interest me, especially on a team that I think is capable. Didn't really get off to the great start in La Liga so far, but I think they can do very well in this group. And I think that they will have a very good chance at getting past Benfica as the runner-up in the group as well. Over under Sociedad, they have a lot of offensive players, but I think they're one of those kind of Barcelona lights where they defend so well because their opponents are concerned about their offense. Inter won't be, but I will say under Antonio Conte set this up, then also Inzaghi's kind of set this along as well, is that I'm expecting there to be a fair amount of defensive type of setups from Inter Milan than trying to counterattack. Their offense is so good, makes it really hard for me to want to back an under involving Inter Milan, unfortunately, because unless the other team's going to try to defend them the whole time and force Inter to have the ball, Inter are going to need a lot of chances, and Lautaro Martinez and others have been so hot really for a couple of years now. Sporting Braga then hosts Napoli in what's a big battle for potentially who's going to go through alongside Real Madrid, is I guess what's expected. I don't know necessarily that Sporting Braga, they're going to have a big step up to this Champions League competition. They've been here in a while. Napoli were one of the best teams in Europe, looked like Champions League favorite if things had gone well and they had stayed healthier last season, but their play completely deteriorated in Serie A as well after they locked that up really early, got Scudetto, and then basically stopped playing, partly due to injury, but also I think they were playing so well and couldn't keep it up for too long. They've lost players, had a really bad start to the year. I'm really interested in Sporting Braga as a home underdog here. Getting a half of a goal is a huge number for me. Over under is 2.75, a little bit juice to the under. Napoli are still not going to be a defensive team, I don't think, under Rudy Garcia. Big questions about him as manager. Sporting Braga probably will play defensively, so that's probably the Braga side, if they're going to do well, probably under looks a little bit more worth it. But I think Sporting Braga should have a big crowd in front of them with Champions League finally in play. And I would expect that half of a goal currently getting odds right now. So maybe we might even see more than that 3/4 of the time this kicks off. I'm a big believer that there's some underrated underdogs in this competition that are facing big names. So I will forever be in the Braga camp, and I love that half of a goal that I'm getting right now. Bayern München then hosts Manchester United, probably the biggest name matchup of Wednesday. Bayern a 1-goal favorite with all the juice. Over under is 3.25 juice to the under. Manchester United have looked horrible. It's very possible that they are inspired by new competition, but I'm not sure I believe in it too much just yet. I need to see it. And Bayern, they're a team I really don't like to fade at home, especially. I got away with it on Friday with a late penalty, though I thought Bayer Leverkusen had played just as well as Bayern München did the whole time. I'll take the penalties. They usually go the other way, unfortunately. But I don't know that there's much for me to do here. Manchester United are probably going to go in and try to defend. So I guess if anything, I like under 3.25, because anything over 3, I think, is asking a lot, especially in a big competition like this where there are quality defenders on both sides. But I don't know necessarily that I really want to get involved with that one just yet. Maybe we'll see what happens with lineups and how we feel about it tomorrow. Benfica then hosts Red Bull Salzburg. Benfica 1.25 goal favorite. A little bit more juice. Over under is 3 juice the under. Benfica is getting a lot of respect. They certainly have great talent. Angel Di Maria is nice. And they did sell a lot, though, with Ramos gone on loan, plus other players that they moved along. Weigel's gone, but I guess he was on loan last year as well. I don't really see this big of a discrepancy between these two sides. Salzburg, a selling club. So you could say if Benfica were selling, Salzburg were like hemorrhaging and getting rid of them as much as they could. I think that this is very possible to be a close game, though, and a Benfica 1-goal win is enough for them. So getting a goal in a quarter where you win half a bet does very much interest me in Salzburg. They're an aggressive side that want to play on the front foot. At least that's how Salzburg have always done it. I don't know necessarily if that will continue forever. But it seems that way, and I would expect that until I see something different. And from the Benfica side, they've usually been more conservative, especially at seemingly the Portuguese teams when they come into the Champions League. They usually are defensive, and it works very well for them. I don't know necessarily that this changes here because they're a big favorite. So it's very possible that we see a little bit different and might be a much more open game, which would potentially hurt the underdog, but I think play more the style of what Red Bull Salzburg want to do. Next, go to Arsenal hosting PSV Eindhoven. Arsenal currently a 1.25 goal favorite with all the juice. Over under is 3, juice all the way to the over. Eindhoven, this is a big test for them. They are a team I really want to back at home. I have some questions about how they're going to defend Arsenal, but Arsenal really haven't looked great to start the season, in my humble opinion. And this is a very capable Eindhoven side that do really well in the transfer market. They build up with younger players that then they sell off for lots of money to go elsewhere. I think hanging within a goal is very, very possible. So I really like Eindhoven there. I don't know that I have a great feeling for the total because I do feel like Eindhoven are one of those sides that can puncture Arsenal and can score. And the worst thing to do is back PSV Eindhoven, have them score a bunch and maybe get a draw or something like that and lose your under bet. And last but not least, we got Sevilla hosting Racing Club de Lens. Currently Sevilla, half a goal favorite with more of the juice right now. Over under is 2.5, juice the under. Sevilla has been a disaster this season. No other way to say it. They've been a disaster for 2 seasons, really. And I've been very happy to be taking advantage of that. And I will continue to try to do that as much as I possibly can. From a Lens side, they've really struggled to start the year, though. So backing Lens is pretty much a bet against Sevilla without really much concern for anything, because Lens have not been able to do much. They lost a lot of players just in time to go to Champions League, unfortunately. And it's been really challenging. So I don't really know necessarily that I expect Lens to get out of this, but I guess if there's a side I got to lean towards in this one, it is Lens. Same manager who was very front-footed and attacking last season. I'm not sure if that'll change this year. I guess I do have some interest in under 2.5 in that one because I don't really believe in either of these offenses, but I think that I got to do a lot more thinking on this one before I get there. So for the ultimate best bet and for, I guess, my Wednesday best bet, I'm going to go with Sport Club Braga, and they are a half a goal underdog at home against Napoli. So just so we can get back in 17 minutes into the first window of the Champions League we've been waiting so long for. Thank you for tuning in, especially if you're live with me. I appreciate that. I'm going to do, let's see, I guess if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave a five-star review. It's huge for the search rankings. If you're on YouTube, please hit subscribe. I really appreciate that. And for, I guess it's best bet, ultimate best bet time. So let's do it. Hey, I'm the real_G Warner on Instagram and on Twitter, also Patreon. Check that out. For my ultimate best bet for Champions League match day 1 for Tuesday, I really like the under 3.25 goals for Antwerp visiting Barcelona. And on Wednesday, I like Sport Club Braga getting a half of a goal at home against Napoli. And for the ultimate best bet for this episode, I'm going to do Sport Club Braga. They are a half a goal underdog at home against Napoli. I think there's going to be a huge crowd expectation for a Champions League fixture that has not been at Braga in a long time. Napoli are off to a really tough start, got a very lucky, fortunate draw, getting 2 goals back at the end at a newly promoted this weekend. And I think they're going to have trouble going on the road to Portugal and having to win this match. I think a draw is very likely or possible for Braga. I feel like their talent is more than you'd expect from a Portuguese side. And so take them plus half of a goal on Wednesday's Champions League. And that'll do it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. A little bit scatterbrained. Sorry about that. But we'll do a little bit better for next week. And if you like the lives, please slide in some DMs, tell me, and I'll see if I can do that moving forward. So we get everything up to the minute, potentially lineups in front of us and that nature. So I'll talk to you all soon. Should have some baseball stuff coming out tonight as well. But stay tuned and we will talk very soon.